This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Welcome to episode 57 of Paranormal Dads. I'm your host, Eddie.
I'm Andy.
I'm Pat.
Join us as we go in search of the world's monsters, myths, and mysteries right here on Paranormal Dads. All right. It's been such a long time. Turn me down, Pat, because I'm hot and spicy.
You're kind of hot there, buddy.
Sorry about that, bud.
Sorry about that.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome us. We're sitting here around the knights of the Paranormal Dads of the round table here.
It's been a hot minute since we recorded, and I do mean hot because it has been triple digits here in Omaha, Nebraska. You guys sweating your Bigfoot boulders off?
Yeah, I've got a kid who was in marching band this week,
and
they're
gosh.
like, people falling on the field. It's like who can march the most before everybody just passes out.
Oh my gosh, that's the
and at that point, they go inside and they just practice their Schubert or Brahms or Beethoven or whatever.
anything.
It is they play.
Gosh, I can't believe that. And they're in like wool uniforms.
Well, yeah, but they're in t-shirts and shorts. They're for band
okay.
camp. It's a little more cash for camp.
Oh,
so.
good.
But he's having a good time. He's loving it, and it's just scary though. Summer is fading fast.
Yeah.
It's going away quickly.
Oh, we got less than 2 weeks before school starts.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the kids are not happy.
I know this is going to make some people roll their eyes, but I'm kind of excited for fall because fall is our time of year, and I know that may rub some of the beach lovers the wrong way, but we love the fall. We love Halloween because, when the leaves start changing and the candy comes out and the ghosts start coming around, that's my favorite time of year. So I'm good with fall.
Yeah, I got to agree. I think fall's my favorite season.
The dimension between like realities kind of thins just a little bit.
Becomes paper thin.
So thin. And also, you were saying sweating off. I'm sweating off my Mothman mothballs. Sweating them off. It's so hot.
But you're rocking the tank top. Eddie is known for his tank tops. You should have your own clothing brand of tank tops.
Listen.
Crazy Uncle Eddie's tanks.
Ooh, I love it. We at Paranormal Dads have a lot of lofty business ideas at some point in time. That should be the ones like Crazy Eddie's tanks, Paranormal Eds.
Speaking of Paranormal Dads fashion, I was out in Indianapolis for a few days with my son for a bowling tournament, and I actually got called back due to some storm damage at the house. I got on a plane and came home a little early, but I was out there for probably 3-4 days, and I did not realize I was wearing 2 different shoes the entire time I was out there.
Yes.
I had 2 different styles of black sneakers on. I didn't even realize it. It's like, I got my dad game right.
Dude, or maybe people were impressed and they're like, man, Omaha's ahead of the curve on fashion here. This is
look
a
at
new
this
thing.
guy.
Man, y'all wearing this matching shoes? Lame.
Should I wear this pair or should I wear that pair? Let's wear them both.
He's wearing a dress shoe and a white New Balance shoe. He's like, what's up?
It's going to be the new peanut butter and jelly of fashion. Just smush them together, buddy.
It's like the mullet of shoes.
Yep.
You're like, I got professional on the right and party on the left. Let's do it.
I like chocolate. I like peanut butter. Let's put them together. Make a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Well, now that we've got you nice and hungry talking about treats and sweets, let's get right into the recent sightings, boys. Okay, so for recent sightings, I was scratching my head trying to come up with something unique and fairly recent. And I was thinking, okay, we've done the UFO thing a bit. I thought, how about recent Bigfoot sightings? So I hopped on the BFRO, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, and on their website, they have a whole breakdown, state by state, on how many Bigfoot sightings have been seen there, according to the official records, and they have it broken down as far as recent sightings per month. So there's been several sightings in July, June, May. So if you guys want to, we can kind of get into that. And but first, I thought it'd be kind of fun to play a little guessing game because I'm looking at cumulative sightings. We have a cat on the table. Hold everything. We have a cat on the table.
Darwin invasion.
Darwin is here.
Buddy.
Speaking of hairy creatures, my cat Darwin, he just jumped up here on top of all of our equipment.
Sprays Eddie in the face.
he's just going to chill.
There he is.
All right, Darwin, you can join the podcast.
All right, there we go. Fourth man on the team here.
All right. So, sightings state by state. I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to start high. I'm going to come in hot here. The most sightings that I have found per state is Washington with 697 sightings.
Not surprising.
697.
That'd be my go-to guess.
Fewest, I think there's a tie for the fewest. 5, Rhode Island has 5, and Delaware has 5. So that just kind of gives you a little, guesstimation there to see if you can figure out. So name a state, Pat.
Okay, I'm going to be devil's advocate here. Hawaii.
Oh, Hawaii. All right, let me find Hawaii. Good old Hawaii. Where are you, Hawaii?
See, I thought Hawaii didn't even
They
have
don't
one.
know. Oh, you stumped me. They don't have any official sightings.
Yeah, when you said those other 2 states were the lowest, I'm like, what about Hawaii? I thought they didn't even have
They're
one.
not even on the list.
Yeah.
What?
Poor Hawaii. Okay, pick another state.
Okay. Kansas.
Kansas. All right. Eddie, how many sightings do you think have taken place in Kansas? And I'll just say this is higher than I would guess.
This is total
since official records
in
have been
Kansas.
kept. Yep.
Carry on my wayward Sasquatch. I'd say 500.
No, you're coming in a little high there. 49.
Oh!
49. That's why I say Washington what was Washington? 697 is
Okay.
by far the number.
So that's ground
Okay,
zero.
that's the
600
high.
is ground zero.
Okay,
Yeah.
that
So-
helps me out. I didn't know.
Now we're getting a gauge. Now we're getting a gauge.
5 million.
By the way,
million
our
sightings.
home state of
There's a whole shopping mall of them down near Lawrence.
I see him every day around here. It's crazy.
we see them by the dozen.
It's like North Pole and Santa Vision.
Here in Nebraska, we've had 15 sightings, so that's
Okay.
we're on the lower end.
One of those was a confirmed Pat Plyce sighting.
One of them was Pat.
I just had my shirt off. I was walking around.
Shirtless Pat Plyce sighting.
It's funny that Sasquatch had 2 different kinds of shoes on.
He's wearing New Balances on one foot.
All right, Eddie, choose a state.
I'm gonna go Florida, man.
All right, home state, Florida. Pat, how many do you think have been sighted in Florida? Hint: it's towards the top tier of
Okay.
states in terms of sightings.
Let's go 237.
Not a bad guess. 333.
What you're getting is that swamp ape right there. You're getting swamp ape sightings.
It's a skunk ape.
Yeah, skunk ape. It smells like
Those are stinky.
butts.
A lot of boggy swamps and bayous and the Everglades, right?
Well, yeah, the Everglades.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I was just there, and we can, I didn't recently sight anything other than a bunch of, snakes and frogs and stuff. But where I was staying was basically a giant, huge wetland area, and at night it sounds like a jungle. I
Yeah.
mean, it's nuts. I swore I saw a monkey going through. It's like, whoa, what's going on?
What kind of snakes were you seeing?
Regular like garden snakes and stuff like that. But also they had like water moccasins.
No anacondas or
No,
anything
my
like that?
anaconda didn't
No.
want none.
Oh, no.
Son. But it's crazy out there.
Okay, how about the great state of Pennsylvania?
Well, let me guess. 102.
Really close, Eddie. You get a gold star for that one. Pennsylvania, 119.
Look at me
Oh,
go!
wow.
Yeah,
Look at you.
It's about as close as you can get.
I am at one with the Pennsylvania.
All right, we're gonna go down to the Lone Star State, Texas. Pat,
Texas.
what you think? What's your guess there?
Oh, I'm thinking, you got your, what's the one down in, they made the movie about it.
Boggy Creek.
Boggy Creek.
Yeah.
Isn't that Texas
Was that
or is that
in-
Oklahoma?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
I thought it was Oklahoma.
That might be Oklahoma. It's Texarkana. Something
Yeah.
like that. I don't know. Texas. Let's go 257.
Even closer. 251.
Whoa!
Nice.
With a high five.
All right, I got to give you each one more since you're apparently really good at this game. How about here's one kind of close to home for us, anyways. Missouri, which we actually went on a Bigfoot expedition in the Ozarks of Missouri.
Very squatchy.
Missouri.
Pretty squatchy, and it's a high number. It's a little less than I would have thought, but it's still a high number. What do you think, Eddie?
I'm gonna go 83.
Missouri, actually 165.
Wow,
Yeah.
almost double. Look at me.
But it is squatchy down there.
It's squatchy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts.
We were driving through there. I mean, they have trees upon trees. You're getting kind of closer to the kind of low-lying mountain type areas. It's pretty squatchy.
I mean, right now the ghosts of our Bigfoot calls that we did are still out there somewhere.
Yeah. Mine's more of a Tarzan scream. But,
I loved it.
You know.
That was great.
Yeah, you did have that kind of oscillation of your vocal cords there.
I think half of that bag of trail mix I dumped out is still somewhere too.
Oh yeah, I forgot you spilled the trail mix all over that poor guy's back seat.
Well, I went to go grab it. It was pitch dark and didn't know the bag was upside down. What you gonna do? You could hear
He
the
probably threw that vehicle away. He was like, "This back seat's toast,
you
man."
can hear the M&Ms just rolling.
Just melting in the hot sun. All right, we're gonna do one more here, Pat. I'm gonna throw you a state that's actually pretty notorious for Bigfoot sightings, Oregon.
Oregon, that's going to be another tough one. I'm guessing it's high. I'm going to say 312.
Pretty close. 258.
258?
Yeah, Oregon comes in at 258. Couple honorable mentions here. Wisconsin, actually known for more werewolf sightings and dogman sightings than Bigfoot nowadays, but Wisconsin's at a respectable 103.
Nice.
Ohio is kind of the dark horse
Yeah,
of the
really.
whole bunch here. A lot of Bigfoot sightings in Ohio, 312.
Wow.
I don't know if the Ozarks technically stretch into Ohio, but I know, the folks that we were down in the Ozarks with, they were very familiar with Ohio Bigfoots.
Yeah.
Well, I just got back from a family vacation in South Dakota, and the Black Hills, pretty squatchy.
Yeah.
Badlands, not so much. Badlands, they don't even have any trees. It's
They
like a
got those
mini Grand
tall
Canyon.
pine trees. And
Yeah, but the Badlands, pretty squatchy. South Dakota sitting at 19 Bigfoot sightings. You got North Carolina, 104. But, the cool thing about this website that I'm on, the BFRO, it like I said, it kind of breaks it down as far as recent sightings, cumulative sightings. It has a little bit of everything on here. So reports recently, they have a few listed here. So reports posted since July 1st of 2021. So these are pretty darn recent, actually. But some of these, although they were reported recently, they actually happened a long time ago. So it's kind of one of these cases of a person finally got the courage or whatever to officially make the report. But one of them actually happened in July, July of 2021 in Mahoning County, Ohio. It was what they call a Class B sighting. A couple returning home apparently spotted a Bigfoot crossing their driveway outside of Columbiana.
that's got to be creepy.
That's next level.
That's when you get that, what is that, Ring doorbell?
Yeah. He's like,
For sure.
Normally I'm pretty reclusive, but with these house prices, even I want to take advantage of these deals.
It's like, forget Amazon porch pirates. You're going to squat a
Yeah,
Bigfoot
yeah.
coming across your front driveway.
Bigfoot done stole my package.
Let's see. There's another one took place, Class A sighting, and this was in Washington County, Wisconsin. I can just imagine a Bigfoot walking around with one of those foam cheese heads on his
He's wedged on his head.
right on his head. But this was a motorist saw Sasquatch. 25 miles northwest of Milwaukee. So getting pretty close to a major city there, Bigfoot, right?
Well, if you bought some New Balance shoes and the next day you see Bigfoot walking around in your shoes, he was porch pirating and
He's like, I bought those on Amazon.
stole your New Balance
His feet are
shoes.
just ripped right through. His toes are sticking out the front. Man,
You mentioned, stealing off the porch. That just came to mind.
Bigfoot just stole my
I
New
pictured
Balances.
Bigfoot in shoes.
Well,
He's wearing my tank top. Hey, Bigfoot.
the recent ones kind of run the gamut. I mean, everything from a motorist seeing it cross the road to some people seeing it in their driveway or on their property. A couple of them were like wood knocks and howls, which you can't discredit, but
No,
I think that's why they have it broken down by, Class A, Class B, and so on, as
Right.
depending on like how up close and personal was the encounter. But
Yeah.
it's just something for our listeners to check out if you want. The BFRO, Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, has cool stats. If you're a numbers guy, that's kind of cool to look up some of those numbers.
And you can kind of get an inside view of how they, what they include in their reports. It's kind of interesting, what kind of things do Bigfoot, the people who investigate Bigfoot, what kind of things do they ask the people, the witnesses?
Yeah. So there you go, a little something to leave you with there. And if you have had a sighting, not only report it to the BFRO, but shoot us an email, give us a call, find us on social media, because we'd love to hear your sighting as well.
If you see anything, I mean, that's the thing. If you see anything, let us know, and we would feature it on our show at this point. I mean, provided it's something that's somewhat legit. Don't be it's all Bigfoot. It's like their uncle. He's got big feet.
I was on the radio once, taking questions from callers, and it was a live show, and they usually screen the callers. This one jackwagon got through, and I don't know, it was this, and right from the get-go, he started talking, and I look at the DJs, and we all roll our eyes, because you could tell he was lying. He was just making up this story as he was going. He was like, giant dragon creature with 9 wings, swooped down and grabbed the top of my car. I mean, I think we cut him off before it was over. But if you have a legit sighting, call us, and maybe your story can be featured on our episode.
There you go.
But with that being said, next segment's pop culture, and I do believe Mr. Pat is up for this one, right?
I do. And don't touch that dial.
It's time for pop, culture, and the paranormal.
So think back to your childhoods, men. Think back to your first experiences with television.
Okay.
And what was television like when you guys were a kid? Do you know a life without cable television? Do you guys?
Yes, but we watched so much TV that the television's name was Mommy Number 2 in the house. We watched a lot of TV. We did outside stuff too, but it was like a strict balance. It was like TV and then outside. But there was a time where we had no cable TV. How about you, Andy?
Okay.
We were thankfully one of the fortunate families in the neighborhood that always had cable. And it was so simple back then. TV was like you had cable or you didn't. Now It's like, do you have Apple TV? Do you have Hulu? Do you have Netflix? Do you have this and that and the other? It's like, we had cable. I think mostly because my dad was a big sports fan, and if you had cable, you got the ESPN and then eventually ESPN2 and HBO and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So cable didn't come around for me till I was, probably, 11, 12, 13, something like that. Mm-hmm. So I do have an experience with television, and in our market in Omaha we had 3 channels. Well, actually there were about 4 or 5. There was channel 3, channel 6, channel 12 and 26 were like the public broadcast stations, and we also had sometimes on a good day you could pick up channel 10 and 11, which were in Lincoln, and so on a good day you could get certain channels. A couple of those channels were on the UHF frequency, and that's kind of where today's story starts, is the time when the United States, the FCC opened up the UHF frequency and brought in a whole slew of more channels that television stations could use.
Because let's educate some people here. There's two essential channels at the time, right? There was VHF, right?
Right.
And then UHF.
And
what was the difference between the two?
Well, it has to do with their radio frequencies, and I think the VHF had the stronger frequencies, or the UHF. You had to use like a different tuner, a different antenna.
I remember that
to get those.
There was a slider we had back in the day. You could switch from VHF to UHF,
right,
on the TV even.
And then that would switch between which antenna you were using on your TV.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this, where I'm going with this, is there was one channel that never existed. Well, it existed, but it was never used.
Okay.
And the reason it was never used was because of extraterrestrial life.
What?
Channel 37 was never used on the UHF bands, and I'm going to tell you why. So in 1952, the Federal Communications Commission lifted the ban on ultra-high frequency for television, UHF. From that day onward, the number of American television stations would increase from 108 to 2,051 all at once. So like by the flip of a switch, all these new frequencies became available for television stations to apply for, to get the rights to be able to use. Well, about the same time, in a place called Danville, Illinois, the University of Illinois was building a huge radio telescope. And what they would do with this telescope is they're listening to deep space for the sounds from extraterrestrial sources. And so, and I think it's kind of funny that this is built, this huge, it's like an acre in size, this radio telescope. And it's built in Danville, Illinois.
That's hilarious.
I'm thinking Phineas and Ferb.
Yes. Yes.
Because that's where they lived, was Danville.
Danville. It has to be connected.
They never came out and said that. But if you've never watched Phineas and Ferb, you need to check them out. It's a
great
hilarious
show.
kids cartoon television show. Anyway, so the guy who played the central role in construction of the telescope was George C. McVitie. And he recalled that it was necessary that 600 megahertz band. So channel 37 falls in a band of, our frequency goes from like 600 megahertz to I think somewhere in the neighborhood of like 618 megahertz. And they finally found the 610 megahertz frequency was the sweet spot for the telescope. And so that actually falls right in the middle of where channel 37 would be. So for these guys looking, kind of looking out into space with this frequency from 600 megahertz to 618 or whatever it was, it would be like you're looking through a 3-pane glass window and the middle pane is painted black, because if you stick a channel 37 in there right in the middle, they're not going to be able to hear anything in that area.
Yeah.
And so they very quickly, once they opened up these frequencies, they came to the FCC and filed a dispute, and they said, no, you can't do this. We need those frequencies dedicated to radio astronomy, specifically. And the FCC, in the interest of making money and for people, they declined, and so a few stations did start to pop up on channel 37, but it was kind of odd that after a group of scientists came to the FCC and really started to kind of make a ruckus about this with people or at the FCC. People started to catch on that this was preventing us from trying to find out about life out in outer space.
Right.
And so they even went, the interesting thing is they went to the media, the scientists did. And so, I'm thinking, well, radio and print, they don't want television to succeed. That's their competition. So they wrote stories about it and really kind of got people worked up about saving the radio telescopes. And so finally the FCC relented and they banned channel 37 for 10 years. Jeez. And over time, they were able to make their case that they basically permanently banned that frequency. So to allow it for radio telescope use. And so channel 37 really never was. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. It's kind of a reach as far as paranormal stuff, but that's how we pretty much through the 60s and 70s how we listened for aliens. They actually shut down this site in, I think it was around 1980. But and then about that time, cable television came online, and today you've got a channel 37, but it's all digital.
It's a Discovery Channel.
Yeah, and
which is ironic.
I thought that was
funny.
interesting too. I made that connection as well.
Yeah.
Discovery Channel in our area is
At
channel
least make
37.
it about science, please.
So, but yeah, it was kind of interesting because they one of the problems they ran into with this radio telescope is the radio telescope basically has to have clean air from like 600 miles from where it was. And included in that 600 miles were populations like Minneapolis, Detroit, St. Louis, and it even gets all the way out into the East Coast. Even New York City and Philadelphia and some places like that would fall within the boundaries of where those cities would cause interference for this telescope. So it's and they were even able to get the Mexican government and the Canadian government to kind of follow suit and kind of protect that frequency for radio telescope use. So
that is amazing. And you don't see that level of cooperation anymore, it seems like.
Yeah. That's one of the weird things about that story is very rarely will you see the government say, oh, you know what? We were wrong. You're right.
Good point. I remember being younger that the UHF stations were always regarded as like kind of like a bric-a-brac.
Yeah, they're a little more cheesy.
Yeah, you're getting some weird stuff when you go to the UHF frequencies.
Yeah, they well in Omaha, one of our biggest UHF stations was KPTM. They actually didn't come onto the air till 1986.
Okay.
But they started off as an independent station, but I thought it was great because they ran all kinds of things like Battlestar Galactica reruns from the 70s and just kind of some old, a lot of old rerun type shows. And it was shortly thereafter they figured out that they needed to align themselves with a network, and they got aligned with Fox. And then it wasn't long after that The Simpsons showed up, and the rest is history.
Kaboom.
So, it was just kind of an interesting story.
Channel
I came across.
37.
Channel 37
That's a fun little.
was never a thing.
I had no idea.
I had no idea either.
I saw one guy in kind of a news group. I was reading about this, and the guy said, Channel 37 would be my garage band name if I ever had a garage band.
I was going to say, there's so many things you could do with that, man. Like, it's such a cool idea. It's funny that they were using essentially I guess it doesn't matter if it's a television. It's still a frequency no matter what, whether it's used for TV or radio or whatever, but they were using it for radio telescopes.
Yeah.
That is bonkers.
That's why there's one channel here in Omaha, Channel 6, that you can actually pick up on the FM frequencies and hear Channel 6. It's because their frequencies kind of fall in with, whatever, frequency it is. So you can actually listen to Channel 6 on the radio itself.
We're listening to the TV on the gosh dang radio. It's a palace of my imagination.
What kind of magic is this?
It reminds me of the movie Signs when they start picking up the alien frequency on the baby monitors. That creepy part of that movie.
Oh man, baby monitors.
There's like a whole subculture of creepy things with baby monitors.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We could do a whole episode on that alone.
We should for future references there.
Well, man, talk about a lesser-known pop culture in the paranormal. Pat got that off the basement shelf and dusted it off and brought it up to.
That's out of the archives. That's out of the old basement.
Digging into part of my childhood.
There. Pat with a spoil hat, watching 37. Don't turn to 37; you'll get a nosebleed again.
It's there, I swear it is. Well, up next we have the main mystery, and Eddie has brought along. He already has it ready. His field journal of handwritten notes. So whatever this is, people,
He's showing it to the microphone.
I'm showing it, Mike.
It's gonna be good.
Here we go.
And now it's time for the main mystery.
All right, gentlemen. I have a story that I'm going to share with you about a group of extraterrestrials that were traveling through space, and they crashed on Earth.
Oh no!
Crashed! And they tried, as they might, to fix their ship, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't fix the ship.
E.T. No phone home?
No phone home. And they realized after several attempts that they were gonna not be able to fix their ship and that there was no hope of getting back home.
Is this the plot line for Ewok Battle of Endor?
Yes! How'd you know? That's my elevator pitch. No! This is the story of the Dropa Stones. And this is crazy. And this is where we talked about our paranormal research, and we read articles, and we come across these books and different things. And I came across this one, and one of them, there are these, they're about the size, a little bit smaller than a record or like an LP. And these are these jade and other different types of stone discs. Have you guys heard of these at all?
I've heard of them, but I don't know anything about them.
So,
And every time you say Dropa Stone, I just think Dropa like it's hot. Dropa like it's hot.
don't drop the stone.
Drop the stone.
Don't drop the stone. It's a pizza stone. So, in Tibet, this is back in the, let me rephrase, let me make sure I got my timeline right here, because I might have misspoken on when these were done. Yeah, this is the early 60s. The early 60s, late 50s. These stones were found in Tibet in these intricately carved, artificially carved tunnels and caves in Tibet. They could tell that they were actually carved out by people. They weren't naturally formed caves. And these stones, 800 of them, are in these caves. And upon inspection of these stones, and they're made of jade and other types of like rock, but they are milled down to a mirror type finish. They're very smooth. And there are what appears to be like lines and grooves in these stones. And when you look at these lines, that they look like lines, when you put them under a microscope, these lines are actually teeny, teeny, tiny little hieroglyphics. Way too small to have been chiseled by the current technology of the time. And these stones, they're placing them around 12,000 years old.
No telescopes 12,000 years ago, right? So
No.
what would be the point of making letters that small, even if they could have?
Why would you make an inscription so small on a thing? How could you do that 12,000 years ago?
It's like the opposite of the Nazca lines.
Yes, exactly. They go big, we go tiny. That's how it goes. They weren't a fan of like Tom Hanks. They're more of a fan of Rick Moranis. They wanted Honey, I Shrunk the Dropa Stones.
Right.
And so the story is that there was these extraterrestrials, and this is where this story is pulled from the stones. Let me see here. His name's Doctor. I want to make sure he's a doctor of what? Dr. Sum Nui. And he is a man from China who later on moved to Japan because he got some drama from claiming what these stones are. But this was an actual a series of hieroglyphs that he was able to translate. And the translation part, I want to dig into a little bit deeper in how they did this. But there is apparently some loose connection to some of these glyphics and the Han Chinese time period.
But it was an unknown language, essentially.
I mean, unknown in the sense that it has variances, but apparently they have Chinese characteristics about some of the hieroglyphics in them.
Linguistics is interesting. I've actually seen some documentaries. If we were to come across an extraterrestrial language, we could essentially create an alphabet from that based on the frequency that certain letters and words are used. Because in every language, there's high frequency words, and there is a way to essentially reverse engineer a language to figure out what it means. So it sounds like that's what they did.
And I take that back. He said there were some similarities in the hieroglyphs, but he himself was able to translate these things. Very tiny hieroglyphs. And he was able to decipher them into a story that told the story of a spacecraft that had crash landed in the area near the cave, near the Bayan Har Mountains in Tibet. And the story literally goes, the Dropa came down from the clouds in their aircraft. Our men, women, and children hid in the caves 10 times before sunrise. When at last we understood the sign language of the Dropas, we realized that the newcomers had peaceful intentions. And so the story goes on to explain that they tried to fix their craft, couldn't fix it, didn't have the necessary materials to do so, and realized that they were just stuck there. And did their best to subsist and live. And according to legend, there were remains found there that were human-like, but were all very short, 5 foot, 4 foot tall, large heads. The whole 9 yards there on that one.
I wonder if they had like the big eyes.
Maybe
that's how they could see these small characters.
Maybe that's a good point.
That's a good theory, actually.
So the discs were examined. The grooves or hieroglyphs. They did get met with a lot of skepticism. He published his findings in a journal in 1962 in China, and was subsequently met with disbelief and ridicule, and he went ahead and exiled himself, self-imposed exile in Japan to avoid all these things. The thing that blows my mind about these is there's 800 of these things, and that they said, reading about the tiny inscriptions on these discs, there's no way using 12,000-year-old technology to have gotten those,
to have created those
inscriptions on there at all. No way to do it. And they also are really puzzled over the smooth finish of these stones. This is 12,000 years ago. They did not have the tools or techniques to get things down to a polished. It looks like a polished stone. It looks like something, just nice and smooth all the way around.
Now, do you know if all 800 of these stones were all part of the story of them coming to Earth, or did you see that if some of those stones might have had a different story, about their civilization?
From what I've read, not all 800 stones have hieroglyphs on them.
Okay.
So they're all found together as part of a collection, but not all of them have the same hieroglyphs on them. I don't know how many of them have them, but a series, they showed museum pictures of these things being displayed. But here's the crazy part. There's no museums that show them being on record of having them. So this is a very interesting story. There's actual photos of them being shown, but no museum will claim that they've actually shown them.
See, that's where you think about Raiders of the Lost Ark, and they put them in some wooden box in some government facility, and they're just sitting there.
I tell you. So leave it to the Russians as well. The Russian scientists have examined these as well, and they went ahead and ran an electric current through these things. And apparently, when you do that, they actually will hum and vibrate, like they were actually almost designed to be used with some sort of power source or something.
Were all the rocks? Did you mention jade? Like what composition were they?
It's mostly jade, but they said you hear jade, especially in that part of the world. With China, you'd think green. Some of them are green, but they said actually a lot of jade is actually brown.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of these are jade, but they just look like they're just regular old rock. But the jade apparently polishes really well and can hold that finish. And so they are mostly jade stones, but to this day, and this is where it gets really interesting to me, like I said, is they're 12,000 years old. There's no debate on that. Apparently around that, you can't really date stone, but in the cave with them, they found like cloth wrappings and things like that, like organic style stuff that was near them that they could actually date. Found in a weird part of the world, hand-carved caverns, 800 of these things. And we get back into like 12,000 years ago, you're going to spend all your time making 800 records made out of jade and putting tiny little hieroglyphs on them because you're bored?
I mean, come on, you're dodging saber-toothed cats and woolly mammoth back then. It's like you got better things to worry about. So basically you got three theories here, in my opinion. Either they're wrong about the age of the stones and they're much more recent, which I don't think that's true. Or B, humans 12,000 years ago did possess technology of microscopes and subatomic, laser things that could engrave such small words. Or C, they're extraterrestrial in nature. And if they're extraterrestrial, it doesn't matter what time frame they're from, because extraterrestrials from God knows where could have been around for millions and millions of years.
Yeah.
So they're either wrong about the time frame, we made them back in the day, or they're alien. Either, I mean, the last two are just mind blowing either way, right?
I don't think Chaka's the one, scratching at the stones and making a
no. Chaka likes berries.
Hieroglyphics.
Chaka likes berries and holly. He doesn't
like berries.
Chaka doesn't want jade discs with little tiny hieroglyphs. The thing that I also found interesting, Andy, like you said, is that this could be indicative of like a human civilization that was just, we had advanced technology back in the day. The other thing about this is what happened to these people or these extraterrestrials. And there's a debate that they actually did kind of just commingle and kind of interbreed with humans and just kind of become absorbed into the human story, that they didn't all necessarily die out, that they may have actually, and in some cases, some people have theorized that they may have actually helped influence some of the cultures around that area in some ways. And so, Tibet's a weird place, and it's got a lot of really cool cultural things, and it's home to the Yeti and some other mysteries. And I just wonder about the history of that area when you're dealing with a 12,000-year-old spaceship crashing there. With their people recording the history on these tiny and that gets my brain thinking too. What would you do if you're like, we're gonna die and we gotta do a record of our existence here? There's no tools, no technology for us to do anything with. We know we can do this on rock. We got a little laser drill back here that can, Ignock over here can. He's like, you got it. And he can carve this in here with a little tool and kind of preserve our story.
It's kind of smart too if they did it on rocks, knowing rocks are going to be around for a very, very long time, as opposed to if they did it on a sheet of paper, it would be it wouldn't have survived this long.
Paper's not going to last 12,000 years. And the last thing, and I know this sounds like a total like a paranormal believers thing to say, but this guy, the doctor Sum Nui, his story is interesting to me because this guy, there's a published article, there's a published book from this man, yet he basically disappears in the story of this. And I'm like, here's the thing. This is very hard to disprove when you have technology being displayed, kind of like the crystal skulls almost. You have technology being showed off that this could not have existed this long ago. And these people are writing down, this is what happened. This is what we did. And this is where we're from. Oh, little thing I left out, in the cave. So on the stones is the story of where we came from. This is what we do. On the cave walls, there's chiseled in representations of the solar system, the sun, and a dotted lines from the earth showing, projecting out into different constellations where they believe that these people are actually from.
That's crazy.
Wow.
On the cave walls.
That's wild.
Yeah.
The thing that's interesting to me is you can't see these things. They've got pictures of them.
Yeah.
But where are they?
Yeah.
Where are they
these
today?
things now? Yeah. Yeah, they're not being displayed in a museum.
I mean, I guess, if governments are involved, I guess that's no surprise. But that's weird.
It is weird.
But the thing is, for any non-believers who want to maintain the status quo about our knowledge of what humans were capable of 12,000 years ago, what do? You discredit the source.
Yeah, you make the guy a nut job.
Chinese doctor here's nuts. The end of story. That's what they do. And that's what governments, that's what people have been doing for as long as we could speak. If somebody, has a theory or an idea, you either hush him or discredit him. They did the same thing to Galileo. They did the same thing to Copernicus. It's unfortunately history repeats itself, right?
Well, it does up until recently, apparently, because the government's now like, yeah, that report that came out. We talked about it. Oh, yeah, they are real. We don't know what they are, though. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah,
that's literally the report.
Nothing to see here.
That's the report. It's like, yeah, these are things that do these things. We don't know who has them. These things, by the way, are vehicles that violate the laws of physics that we know on every level and everything, whatever.
These reasons, and we talked about this a show or two ago, but it's like, that's what they're saying. We don't know what they are. They could be Chinese. They could be Russian. But at the same time, these Navy pilots are like, yeah, it dropped 13,000 feet in 1 second, and then came to a complete stop.
Yeah, 1 inch above the ocean.
Weird. Get China and Russia on the phone. They'll shake their head. That nobody on this planet has technology that can do that.
Yeah. Well, and
not even a drone. It would shatter a drone.
It would destroy the drone.
Yeah.
And drones still have a perceptible way of propulsion. They have propeller blades. And these things don't have that. They look like a little pill flying through the sky. A 40-foot long one, by Whee! Like it looks like a minion floating around on its side. So with this kind of story on its surface, and as you dig into it a little bit more, it's like, of course the guy was discredited. Of course he exiled himself. He probably got killed, frankly. And it's a very interesting story. You can see pictures of these if you just Google this up. We'll put a picture up on our page, but there's tons of photos of these things. The Dropa Stones, Dropa. And some people say Dropa, and I'm like, it's not a double P. It's not a double P. The Dropa Stones, and they're very pretty looking. They look like just a little bit smaller than a record, and they have a hole in the middle too. By the way, that's one thing that
Oh.
they have. Each one of them has a hole in the middle. And someone was like, well, that just proves to you that it was on a rotating thing. I'm like, of course it was on a rotating thing. How else would you do this? Like, that doesn't mean it wasn't an extraterrestrial who did this. Right. It's the inscriptions that are the thing you want to get into. These tiny, tiny little hieroglyphics that you couldn't read with your eye. They look like lines. They look like actual lines until you put it under a microscope and you're like, consarn it. It's languages. Like, can't read.
But 800 of them.
800 stones.
Again, that kind of alludes to the fact these weren't chiseled. They were made quickly with some sort of precision tool. Can you imagine how long it would take even a group of people to chisel by hand 800 of these things in such detail?
Dude, they weren't chiseling them. It's 12,000 years ago. This isn't even this is pre-Bronze Age. They had to literally grind them down with tiny pebbles, and they were the scientists are like, oh, they had to use a chemical process. I'm like, they didn't know what chemicals were. What were they doing, dude? What are you doing? And they're like the culture of the ancient area of people probably had some understanding of basic, sanding things down with rough things. And we try so hard when it's obviously the aliens. We just try so hard. Anyway, I digress. The Dropa Stones. You'll blow your mind if you look this up. It's a very fun rabbit hole to go down.
Very nice.
Well, 2 out of our 3 segments were very much lesser known, so I like that. A very unique episode here. So good segments, guys.
Yeah, fun time for sure.
And we say this every episode, but if there's a new listener, you can find us on social media. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you got a cool story, there's a very good chance if you send us, email us, call us with your story, it could be featured on our show. You can reach us at paranormaldads@gmail.com.
And look for us, like Andy said, on Facebook and Instagram. We respond to messages there too, and it's a fun time. We try to put up some fun things, and if we see some weird things and we can snap a photo of it, we put it up on those things as well. And also, if you're interested in some Paranormal Dads swag, let us know. I've come up with a new vendor for us that will allow us to kind of turn things around a little bit quicker and more fun for you, and give us a little bit of variety on some stuff that we can offer you guys. So if you want some Paranormal Dad stuff for your friends and family, hit us up.
Hey, and I just want to thank everybody again for listening to the show. I've had a number of people come up to me just recently and ask, hey, when's the next episode come out? And I know we're not the most regular group out there on the internet.
That's true.
But for example, Tarika, I hope I'm saying that right, Tarika, from New Zealand, sent us a message and said, hey guys, what's up? We're the next show. So thank you for writing us, and thank you for keeping us honest. And we do what we can, and we enjoy doing it. And we thank you very much for listening to us.
All right, everybody, have a good one. Keep it spooky.
Take care.
Bye.
How's that? Is that tightened it up?
Yep.
Nice.
Droopy Mike syndrome has been corrected.
All right.
And 2 out of 10 American males suffer from it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Every time I look in my...
I got pictures of Darwin just storming the gate here.
Darwin he didn't care. He was going to be a part of this
He
podcast.
just shoved his booty hole
He's
right
like, if Sarah gets to be on the show, I want to be on the show.
He's like, what do I think of your show?
I show it my fanny,
I
yeah.
show it my butt cheeks. Both of them. Are we recording?
Yes, we are recording.
You're first. I'm second. Third.
All right, here we go.
La 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 la. We good?
All right.
I couldn't.
Pat's like, I didn't sign up for
froze.
this.
That's like you.
I couldn't think of anything.
You're not a
funny
man,
to
you're a
say.
cartoon. Here we go.